Capcom might have made a huge mistake when it comes to Monster Hunter Stories 3, not because of the actual game itself in terms of the quality, at least on the PlayStation 5, PC, and Xbox, because that's been pretty good, but I think that the focus and where their market actually is for people buying the game was off, because out of all of the versions of the game, obviously the Nintendo Switch 2 version, because of how they wanted to push the graphics and the fidelity in there, is not quite as good as fans would have wanted, and that might have affected sales big time, as the Famitsu numbers are in, and it's significantly lower than the Monster Hunter Stories 2 Wings of Ruin game that released back in 2021. But there are many factors for that. It's not just a straight up comparison, and I want to get into that, and I'm going to share what I would have done, because these numbers aren't looking too good from the looks of it. But before we continue on, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2. All you have to do to enter is hit that subscribe button if you aren't already subscribed, and drop a comment below. We are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 once we hit 150,000 subscribers, and it will be random. So the more that you actually comment and interact, the better chance that you have to win. Hit that like button, click that notification bell, and let's go ahead and jump right back into it. So if you look at the Japanese sales for the game Monster Hunter Stories 3, it doesn't look impressive just looking right off the back. 37,718 units on the Nintendo Switch 2, and then another 17,188 units on the PlayStation 5, and no units logged for the Xbox Series. I'm not even sure if it came out physically for retail for the Xbox platform in Japan. Now, these are just retail sales, so the Switch 2 version is the game keycard, the PS5 version is obviously the regular disc for the game, and it doesn't include the digital sales, which are definitely higher in terms of uptake compared to where it was back in 2021 when the game was just a Nintendo Switch console exclusive, and it also launched on PC and had, I think, about 30-something thousand or so people when it comes to Monster Hunter Stories on Steam DB start out, so not bad for that type of RPG. But if you look at some of the other charts that have came out with this game, nothing once again too impressive. Didn't look impressive on the Xbox charts, not really anything crazy on Steam. I think around 50-something thousand peak when it launched, and that's fine, I guess, for Steam. But also PlayStation, nothing really super crazy when it comes to the charts on PlayStation. And now we have the Famitsu charts, and it looks like it might have significantly performed worse than what we saw with Monster Hunter Stories 2. Now, a couple different factors here with this. With the Nintendo Switch 1 in Japan, at least, the Nintendo Switch 1 was at over 20 million in sales. So a much bigger install base than currently right now with the Nintendo Switch 2 in Japan and the PlayStation 5. Much bigger because the Switch launched in 2017. The game came out in 2021 with Monster Hunter Stories 2. So there was over 137,676 sales for Monster Hunter Stories 2 in Japan the debut week. So you're comparing that 50-something thousand plus between the PlayStation 5 and the Nintendo Switch 2 compared to 137,000 plus, once again, not including digital. But you also have to factor in, once again, big install base with Switch 1. And on top of that, Pocopia also came out right around that same time. So you're also contending with Pocopia, which sold over 500,000 units in its debut week, and then sold another 100,000 units plus this past week. So Pocopia right now is dominating the sales charts when it comes to Japan. And that could have taken away from what Monster Hunter Stories 3 was doing. So I think that they messed up when it comes to the direction of this game, and I felt that way when I booted up the demo for the Nintendo Switch 2. Yes, it runs great on PlayStation 5. It's got, like, I think 120 FPS, or it's got much better resolution and frame rate, and obviously the scope and scale, the marketing, and what they did for this game was significantly bigger. They spent a lot more money. They made it multi-platform. They really kind of made a PlayStation 5 version of the game, it seems. Now, once again, I don't know for sure, but it seems like they really made a PS5 game or PC game and then ported it to the Nintendo Switch 2 instead of making the game on the Nintendo Switch 2 and then porting it over to other platforms. And let me explain the reasoning behind it, because the frame rate. When it comes to Monster Hunter Stories 3 on the Nintendo Switch 2, if the game was built for the Switch 2, they could have built it around the parameters of the system and make the game probably run at 60 FPS the whole time. Now, there are, like, within the battles, I think that's 60 FPS for the Switch 2, which is good, but it's a turn-based battle system. But it would have been nice if the fluidity was better, or, like, as good as, like, let's say Resident Evil Requiem, or what we saw with Pragmata on the Nintendo Switch 2. And this game, once again, appeals to mainly Nintendo fans. It started on Nintendo with the Nintendo 3DS, and yes, it's been ported over to other platforms, but it started as Nintendo console exclusives. Same thing goes for Monster Hunter Stories 2, before being ported over to other platforms, other consoles, at least PC got that at launch. So I personally would have done this with the game. In my opinion, I would have made the game for the Switch 1 and for the Switch 2 and make it within those limitations. And the reason why is because if you play Monster Hunter Stories 2 backwards compatible on the Nintendo Switch 2, it runs at a rock solid 60 frames per second in battles and out of battles, in the open-ended areas. And you could have increased that. You could have made that better, but within what the Switch 2 can do, and then port that to Switch 1 and have it around maybe the same fidelity of what you're doing. And I know that they want it to go much bigger scope, but I just don't feel that the sales of this game and what the game has done beforehand warrants what they did in terms of the dramatic uptake. I think they could have put that time into other aspects of the game when it comes to some of the battle system stuff and made that a bit more dynamic, or even completely changed things a bit different. Maybe not as much as the rock, paper, scissors, and something different. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad battle system, because the battle system is good, but I do think that that time could have been put into something else instead of really focusing on the big multi-platform and making the graphics quality so much better, and making the graphics quality above really what the Switch 2 can even be able to handle with the open-ended segments. Now, I do think that, yeah, if you put it on Switch 1 and Switch 2 and get that natural Nintendo marketing boost that you would get in Nintendo Directs, and then later release the game on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, I think that they would have had significantly better sales to start out here. Now, once again, in Japan, only 17,000 copies sold on PlayStation 5 physical. That's not including the digital sales. But at $70 for a spin-off series that has never been big in sales numbers or anything, I'm not sure if Capcom is thinking that is even worth it when it comes to the extra horsepower, the scope and scale of the game, the marketing, all the money they put into it. I'm just not sure if Capcom's like, okay, yeah, that pays off what we're doing here based off of what we've seen so far. We still need final numbers. We don't have that yet, and I'm pretty sure that maybe it did okay, but I think maybe they were expecting a bit more considering the quality of the game. It is a mid to high rated game on Metacritic and everything, so I think maybe they were expecting a bit more with a multi-platform release. Now, the gameplay is as solid as ever. You guys know, like, the gameplay is awesome. It's a very good game. The rock, paper, scissors mechanic is dope, but I don't know if post Expedition 33 that's what maybe Xbox, PlayStation, and PC fans are looking for. I think that maybe a lot of them checked out that demo and was like, yeah, it's not Expedition 33-ish, so I'm good on this one. I don't want to play it. And I'm not saying that they have to copy Expedition 33. Of course they don't. I just don't know if making a game for this audience and making the platform when it comes to PS5, making that, okay, that's the best version of how to play it. And the Switch 2 version is compromised because they went with the bigger scope and everything. I'm just not sure if that was a great strategy, because there's definitely a lot of Switch 2 users who decided to not pick up this game, from what I've seen at least, because of the performance issues and everything. And I'm not sure if this game was even on the radar for Xbox, PlayStation, and PC people out there. The Switch 2 also chipped in another 96,000 plus units in sales, so maybe there's going to be some good long-term sales on the Switch 2 for Monster Hunter Stories 3, but we're going to have to wait and see on that one. So what do you guys think when it comes to everything we talked about here with Monster Hunter Stories 3 and the sales so far? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, so getting into this next topic is really cool when it comes to the Nintendo GameCube Online Nintendo Classics. It looks like Nintendo has had a massive bump up to the quality of it, and I want to go over it with the update that we got here with the app update 1.6.0 and system version 22 that added the new boost mode and all of that cool stuff. We've got a big improvement with the GameCube. So apparently these sticks feel way more accurate and natural. The massive input lag that people have been reporting well, that's been reduced significantly. Now, it might not be exactly quite to the GameCube standards, which is one of the fastest, if not the fastest of all time when it comes to input and everything, but that's been dramatically reduced. Now, it has the new HDR compatible CRT shader for that authentic retro vibe, and it has sharper, more consistent visuals overall. So that is pretty cool. A lot of users out there are reporting this on Twitter. There's also been some official tests like Luigi Blood and other people that are known for testing out things that have stated that the input lag is dramatically better on games like, let's say, the F-Zero GX game, which requires very good precision and demanding controls. You want to make sure everything is precise with that, and it seems like it's significantly better here. And this is exactly what Nintendo needed when it comes to the GameCube and all of that. It's the most expensive service for Nintendo that they have when it comes to their online. They have the $20 one, but that doesn't come with GameCube and some of the other systems. Then they have the $50 one, and that comes with it. And there's not a massive selection of GameCube games right now, but they are shaping things up. They did just add Pokemon, the Gale of Darkness game. There's some people that really love that game. They grew up with it with their childhood and all of that. I'm not as big of a fan, but I'll definitely check it out at some point. But they've been adding stuff like Path of Radiance. They added Luigi's Mansion. So I think that if they continue to add in and improve the service, they can definitely add a lot of value that people are going to come back to and say, okay, it's going to be worth the $50, because that $50 every year can be put into a big first party game instead. Some people don't have that type of disposable income, so there's a lot of questions all the time is if it's worth it. Now with this update here, and now with them adding Pokemon, and now with it being a lot better with the HDR and the sharper visuals and the better input delay, it's more easier to recommend. And if they keep on adding great games to the service, and now you can play those online with your buddies as well, because remember, you get the online play with it. GameCube can turn out to be really cool for people playing online, in addition to just being able to play the authentic GameCube type experience with the controllers on the Nintendo Switch 2 anywhere that you want as well. So I'm very happy that they did this update here. It looks like things are a lot better, and I'm hoping they continue to get better when it comes to the GameCube. So what do you guys think when it comes to the updates here with Nintendo Switch Online, Nintendo Classics, GameCube? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, move on to the next topic here. We've got a release date for Starbites. That's launching on May 21st here in the West. This is a science fiction turn-based RPG from NIS America. So let's get into it here. So Starbites first launched for the PS5, Xbox Series, and Nintendo Switch on October 16th, 2025. There is a limited edition available for $90. And here's a bit more information about the game. Join Lukita and her allies as they uncover the truth behind the sands of Bitter. Hop on your motorbop and ride towards freedom in this brand new RPG Starbites. On Bitter, a desert planet ravaged by the aftermath of an interstellar war, a young salvager named Lukita seeks to escape to the stars, but a sudden attack on a giant robot sets events into motion that will change her life and the fate of Bitter forever. Explore the expansive landscape of Bitter atop your motorbop and fight your way to victory in turn-based battle system that's easy to learn and satisfying to master. Build up your party, kit out your motorbots with powerful equipment, and head out into the deserts of Bitter. Somewhere beneath the dunes, the truth of what happened 45 years ago awaits. Now here are the key features. Fracture your foes, learn your enemies' weaknesses, then fracture their guard and dish out the damage in classic turn-based RPG gameplay that's easy to pick up and hard to put down. Take extra turns with drivers high to really turn the tables. That kind of feels like the Octopath Traveler type of system, breaking your foes, extra turns and everything when it comes to like Bravely Default and all that. So nice on that one. Ride high on your motorbot. Every character has a personal motorbot that's suited to their own personality and battle style. Lukita rides high in her slingshot wielding robot, while Gwendol cruises along her flashy hoverbike. Secrets beneath the dunes. The sands of Bitter hide many secrets. Uncover the truth in this gripping story of regret, revenge, and forgiveness. So you guys are checking out this trailer here, and yeah, it definitely looks like a double A type of RPG. I want to see how the game is once it actually comes out, fans get their hands on it, because the art style definitely is a little bit different from what you'd expect from an NIS published game, but it could be good. Now, it already released in Japan. Not sure how that turned out when it comes to Japanese users and what they thought. I didn't hear a lot of people talk about it, but we'll see how it kind of works out with the reviews here in the West. and everything, because it is, once again, a interesting RPG, at least from the looks of it, but we'll see how the combat and everything works out once the game gets its full release here in the West, at least. But all right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are someone new, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 and RPG content right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.